Welcome to my off-grid adventures. I'm Frank, and I'm glad you're here with me today because we're going to debunk 5 myths related to off-grid living. The first myth about off-grid living is that you need to be at least some type of experienced builder in order to do it, because you're going to have to build some type of a log cabin or some kind of a tiny home on your property. Well, as you can see behind me here, we didn't go that route. We just decided to go with an RV. Now, we have a nicer RV. We wanted to have some of the luxuries of home. So it has TV and microwave, oven, stove, refrigerator, and a comfortable bed. But that's just one myth that keeps some people from pursuing an off-grid lifestyle, is that they don't have any building experience and they're intimidated by that. If you can live in an RV, you're probably going to be more comfortable, or at least just as comfortable as you would in some type of a cabin that you'd build. So I wouldn't let that keep you from going off-grid. If you can afford a good RV, it could be an option for you still. Now, we do intend on building a small off-grid cabin on our property here so that we have another spot to go to on the river. So you will see that in an upcoming video, but I just want you to know it's not a necessity. The second myth that is intimidating and I think keeps a lot of people from going off-grid is the complication of going solar. It may not look that complicated from watching other YouTube videos about solar, but it is complicated. It's very complicated. So that can keep a lot of people from going off-grid. But there are solutions to this that are not complicated. And I'm referring to the battery bank systems, like an EcoFlow Delta Pro is what we have. But there are a number of good quality solar generators that are pretty much plug and play. You can buy them in a kit that comes with solar panels, and all you do is connect that with one cord to the battery bank, and then you hook up your RV or whatever you need to connect to power to that bank. Those are more expensive than the route that you see most off-gridders using on YouTube. But for me, it was a necessity because it's so complicated. And that kind of gets back to the same point in myth number 1. There are things that are intimidating that you might be able to figure out later on. So just give yourself some time to learn and adapt and research and figure things out. So I did end up building a solar array, but not until I had been on our property using a basic solar generator system for over 2 years. So take it at your own pace, but don't let the intimidation of the complications of solar panels and solar systems keep you from going off-grid if it's something you really want to do. Just start with what you can afford and make sure it has enough power to do what you need it to do. And it can work just fine. You'll get a lot of comments on YouTube if you share your experience with people saying you're not doing it right, but it worked fine for me for 2 years, and I'm sure it could work well for you too. There's a third myth that keeps people from going off-grid, and that is the fear of not having internet access. Now, technically, some define off-grid as not only being off the grid of the electric system, but also off the grid of the internet. That's not the type of off-grid living that I experience, and that's not what most others on YouTube, or any of those on YouTube, are experiencing either. But something has changed since I even bought our off-grid property, and that is the amount of satellites that Starlink has sent up into orbit. When I first bought this property over 2 years ago, Starlink wasn't an option yet. There just wasn't a good enough signal for it. But last year, about this time, I have found out that they now cover this area. So check that out on Starlink's website and see if you're covered now. So you can get it for $120 a month. We have the Starlink Gen 3 and couldn't be happier with it. It's worth it because we need internet. We work from here remotely. So I need to be able to have high-speed, reliable internet access. So don't let that keep you from being an off-gridder. You very well might be able to have good internet access through Starlink. So check that out. The fourth myth about off-grid living is related to the bathroom. Some just assume that to be off-grid means that you have to use a disgusting outhouse. Now, we do have an outhouse here, but we also found an option that is much, much better even than what comes in the RV. We never used the septic system of this RV. I just didn't want to deal with the hassle of cleaning it out. So initially we were using an outhouse, and we still use it occasionally. But in our RV, we have a dry flush toilet by Lavio, and that is just so fantastic. It's like an adult diaper genie, where it seals each time you use it and seals off the smell, and then you just throw it out after about 15 or 20 flushes or something like that. It ends up being about $1 a flush, but well worth it because I don't like the idea of being in a outhouse that might have snakes and spiders and just a disgusting smell. I did a lot of research about the kind of bathroom that we could have here that would be more modern, and really wasn't happy with any of the other options out there. I didn't want to do a composting toilet, but I've been very happy with the dry flush toilet by Lavio. And I've had it for over a year now, and I've had no issues. It's so easy to switch out the cartridges. I highly recommend it. Now, it's expensive, but again, if this is the kind of thing that will keep you from going off grid, is you just can't stand the thought of using an outhouse, then let me encourage you, that is a myth that needs to be busted. There are options available that are much more comfortable and pleasant and easy to use. I saved the biggest myth for last, and it might be a little controversial. Some might disagree with me on this, but one of the myths about off-grid living is that it will save you money. I just can't imagine how you could save money by being off-grid unless you're willing to go without power, because it costs a lot of money for these solar generators and solar panels, and those aren't reliable consistently due to the seasons. There's not as much sun in the wintertime. And there are also times in the summer when you want to run the air conditioning. And in order to do that, you're going to need more than you can draw just from solar. So you end up needing a gas generator. And to run that generator can cost you, I don't know, I guess $40 a day to run that. And electricity is cheap. An electric bill for a standard residential home really isn't that large of an expense. So I can't imagine, even in an entire lifetime, saving enough money to pay for all the equipment and the gas. So I'm sorry that last myth might discourage you, but I do want you to go into this with your eyes wide open, knowing that there are other reasons to consider being off-grid besides saving money. So if going off-grid isn't about saving money for us, what is the reason why we've chosen to do it? Well, I get a lot of personal satisfaction out of all that we've learned in being off-grid. I get a kick out of drawing power from the sun for free. And I like the idea of the flexibility that we have. We could relocate our RV to another part of the property. There's one other reason that's kept me from getting hooked up to electricity, and that is that it would require quite a bit of damage to our property in clearing a path for the electrical line to be brought in. We'd have to take out a lot of trees and have a lane for that to come through. And I believe that would then have to become an easement and all that stuff. And I just didn't want to deal with all of it. It would cost $10,000 to have that brought to the spot that we'd want electricity right now, but then we'd be stuck at that spot and we couldn't relocate on the property if we wanted to. But the $10,000, I'm pretty sure we've come close to spending that much in solar panels, solar generators, and batteries, and in gas to run our air conditioner and to power up the solar generators and batteries when there isn't enough sun out. So for me, it's not about saving money, but I'm still glad to be off-grid and I'm proud of it. Is there a reason why you chose to go off-grid that isn't related to saving money or to the pride and the satisfaction or the sense of freedom that you have? If so, I'd love to hear it in the comments. Well, those are just 5 myths. I'm sure there are others, but those were 5 that I bought into before going off-grid. And those might be a few of the things that have kept you from becoming an off-gridder. We have a lot more that we're going to learn and share with you on YouTube. So if you'd like to see how we live off-grid in Michigan, please subscribe. We'd love to have you join us. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time. Oh, pumpkin. Hey, come here, girl. Come here, you little beautiful dog. Come here. Come on. Come on, sweetie. Come here. Want to go for a drive? Want to go for a ride? Yeah? Yeah? You're vicious. Are you vicious?